Welcome back inside the Now Morning Show. Hope you're having a great morning so far. I have with me this morning Adanna Williams, who is a mental health expert at the department director.
Yes, well, I'm a director of nursing, and the deputy director of
at the
nursing.
National Health Services in London, and she joins us this
Yes.
morning because we're talking mental health a little bit. Good morning, Adanna.
Good morning, and good morning to everybody who's tuning in.
How are you?
I am doing great. I'm fantastic.
Did you take part in the Carnival celebrations
I
yesterday?
did. Well, I didn't play Mass yesterday. I played Juve.
Nice.
And which I absolutely enjoyed. I played in South this year, so
Nice.
very close to home. I'm a South girl at heart always.
Nice,
yes.
man. And you were able to enjoy the festivities. South
I
was nice.
did. South was lovely. I had a great time.
Love that. All right, tell me a little bit about what you do at the National Health Services in London.
So I have been working with the health services now for over 20 years, and my main job at the moment is about ensuring that we deliver policy and strategy for mental health, learning disabilities, autism, and special education needs for one of our 7 regions in the UK. But I'm also a deputy director of nursing as well for professional and systems development. So a lot. A lot.
And it sounds like a lot of policy and a lot of putting things in place to make sure that the systems can be rolled out properly.
Absolutely. So it's about ensuring that people get the right care at the right time, but also ensuring that we deliver innovative care. So looking at changes and improvements and enhancements, and also key to that is bringing in those with lived experience to help shape and direct what we do on a national stage. So yes.
Nice. All right. Tell me a little bit more about mental illness. Who has a mental illness, and what are the main causes of mental illness?
So anybody can get a mental health problem, and I think it's really important for us to recognize and understand that. I know often people believe it's taboo, but everyone can experience it. I have even had my experiences with anxiety, certainly today, getting prepared to come here. I was very anxious. But we can all have strategies to manage that. And if you could imagine, because when I teach about this, because I do a little bit of lecturing, I talk about it on like, if you imagine a line and one end of the line is great health and the other end is mental health, we all travel along that continuum at different points. And the things that can tip us in one direction or the other can be related to stress. Another element of that could be your genetics, because if you have mental illness in your family, sometimes you may be more predisposed to have that. It could be your environment and substances, illicit and alcohol as well can impact on your mental health. And, so there are multiple factors that may influence you getting a mental health issue.
I'm very curious about the drugs or the alcohol affecting your mental health. Would that be a temporary adjustment of your mental health, or would it be a more permanent adjustment?
Well, this is the thing. So for some people, if I have had experiences where I've treated people who had taken illicit substances at festivals, and they experienced a mental health break at that point, and then they were able to go through therapy and experience some recovery and didn't have any major illness that required treatment. Also, I have had those who have had unfortunate experiences using illicit drugs that triggered something in them, and then they ended up having lifelong mental health issues and physical health issues that came alongside that as well. Those instances are relatively rare, but they do happen, and it's important to be mindful of them.
Very much so. Tell me, related to Carnival, what sort of mental health concerns should we have?
Well, I feel that there is a number, because alcohol is a known depressant. So if you consume huge amounts of alcohol, then, you may find that post-carnival, you're feeling the impact of that. So it could be lethargy, tiredness. You may find that it might have impacted on your sleep, all of your fetting and partying, would impact on you. And I think the other really important factor that we should consider is stress. So we had Christmas, which was a huge financial blow, Carnival, an additional blow, and all of that fun and revelry and getting together with everybody. And many of us will move back into a little bit of isolation, which is another thing that can impact on your mental state. So there are a number of different things. And again, we spoke about illicit drugs. So sometimes in the festivities, people may consume things that they're finding now is having a bit of an impact on them post, celebration. So there are a number of things to consider.
Now, for me, like Carnival is one of those things that I consider group therapy, right? Because we come together, we party, we celebrate, we go out on the road, we leave it all there, at least in theory, right?
Yes.
We leave it all there. And there is a recovery process. So most people are going to say, the rest of the week, they ain't going to see me in work. Is that one way of taking care of your mental health?
It is a great way of doing that because I think it's really important to take some time to reflect, rest, and renew. And also, but again, for each individual, that might take different forms. For me, I like to go to spas, I like to have massages. I also like to take long walks and listen to music that I enjoy. So for each individual, you have to know what is that thing for you that helps to regulate you, improve your mood, improve your well-being, and ensure that you are safe. But there's one critical thing about Carnival that we often don't speak of, but I think it's really important and it relates to this subject. So it's about safety. So we are out in that environment and oftentimes people have experiences that are unpleasant. And after Carnival, you may reflect on that and appreciate the impact. So I want to say to those of you who are viewing, if you have had any experiences on the road, anything has happened to you that you find has caused trauma, please talk to somebody about it, get some support, get some advice, and even speak to the police if it is something that you believe could be a crime, because it's important for us to be mindful of that too.
Very much so. I want to just go back to getting more information about how we get to this stage in the first place. Because how do you know, how do you say, all right, I might have a mental health problem? What are some of the things you can be looking for as a indicator?
I think a big indicator is about your ability to cope and function with normal activities of daily living. So for example, there's various symptomology that might present itself when you have an emerging mental health issue. But some of the more common and typical ones that might be affiliated with post-Carnival might be, you may experience a feeling that we call anhedonia. So you don't have any desire to get involved with things that you would historically enjoy. As you mentioned about people not wanting to go to work. So you may not want to engage in activities that are important for your running of your household and life. Well, a few days is fine, but there are some people who might want to extend that further because they struggle to get back to normality. You might find as well that your sleep may be interrupted. That is a huge factor that could lead to other problems. For some people, it may present as appetite, so you might find increased, for some decreased. So it really is an individual thing, and there are a number of various different symptoms that could be indicators. But if you, as an individual, a good litmus test is if you feel that, we just say sometimes, I'm not feeling myself, I find things are a real struggle, that might be a time to have a conversation with somebody who can support you. I often say a trusted friend. I often say sometimes you could speak to your doctors, and speak to your nurses locally, and just speak to somebody who is a health professional or who have some training, who could help you identify whether this is normal and resolving or if this is something that might need further intervention.
Well, how do you tell the difference as a professional?
Well, for me, I would bring someone to me and I will do what we would call a bit of a psychiatric interview. So I will ask you some questions about how you function normally, your current daily activities, perhaps maybe get into a bit of depth around some risks-related issues. Do you perhaps have any thoughts that are concerning for you? I will ask things about support systems and mechanisms that you have to cope to get some understanding about those coping strategies. So when we do these assessments, they take various different components. So it would be about how are you presenting, what symptoms you are presenting with, what environments you're in, what support network you have within that environment, and then we would look at risk. And then what will happen then, you will form an impression and a formulation that will then support decisions around how you would plan care and support for that individual.
Care and support for mental illness, how does that look? I mean, we tend to say, all right, you go to the psychiatrist, the psychologist, or you go to the mental health hospital in St. Anne's, as the case may be. But what does that care look like?
Well, that sounds more like the extreme end of that spectrum, because there are multiple things that you can do, as I mentioned, that, may not necessarily mean that sort of serious professional intensive intervention.
Tell me.
So for me, I would encourage persons, especially post-Carnival, to be open, honest, and transparent about your current circumstances. So if your pressure and stressor is coming from finances, sit down, review them.
Yeah.
Be realistic about your debtors, about how you would be able to pay, and set plans, because planning is critical. The other bit about it is, if you recognize that there are issues with sleep, there are many tools online, and I tell people already, the internet is not just for Facebook and Instagram. You could go on there and learn really great tips about sleep hygiene that could support you. Diet is another key thing. So you spend all weekend partying, drinking, doing whatever. Now it's time to perhaps maybe look at detoxing, cleansing, and getting
Lent.
healthy. I think, yes, it's Lent.
Yes.
So make a decision about what you are giving up that will promote better health. And if you find now that you make some small step adjustments and you're still feeling that things are not shifting, then that will be the point to seek out some professional support to look at what else you can add to augment things that you've already started. But you have to start with honesty, recognizing there's a challenge and making a decision about how you will move forward with that.
Now, the interesting thing for me, Adanna, is that, I mean, some of those challenges sound like everyday life to some people. Like, they just know that, I know I'm going to be in debt this month. I know it's not going to be enough money. I know I'm going to make it through Carnival or no Carnival. Post-Carnival, pre-Carnival, the financial situation was the same, right? And we're saying, all right, so then people in those circumstances, how do they tell that there's a difference? How do they tell that I am struggling because this is just life?
I find that if you get to a point where you feel I have no hope, so feelings of hopelessness, helplessness, I can't do anything about it, I don't feel like I can go on. When you get to that state of despair, that is when you know things are difficult, because people are functional. So sometimes people function in really difficult circumstances and they work through, they push through. But when you get to a point that you are unable to push through anymore, that is when you know things have taken a turn.
Fair. That's fair. Now, today's also Valentine's Day. Lots of love in the air, but of course, lots of heartbreak, lots of tabanka, lots of other feelings of lack of being wanted, lack of desire. How do we begin to deal with mental health on a day like today?
Well, as a fellow singleton, you find others who are in the same boat as you, because I think it's really important to normalize it, right? Valentine's is another day like any other. But I think it's also important, if you don't have that special someone to give you that love, I am almost positive that there will be people in your life who love you. And if there isn't, you have to love yourself.
Hey, no.
So on a day like today, I know for me, certainly, I will be doing something that myself will thank me for.
Right.
So if you are able to, you go out and, as I say, do something nice, maybe treat yourself to something small if you can manage it. And that does not have to mean anything extravagant.
Yeah.
It could be that you decide, all right, I'm going to stop today and get a watermelon by this fruit seller, sit down and enjoy your watermelon. Do something that your future self will thank you for. Love yourself, because we always say, if you don't love yourself, how do you want others to love you? So you have to show them how you want to be loved.
Would you recommend staying off of social media on a day like today for people who might be on the verge of it? Like, you know, yes, you love yourself, yes, you want to celebrate yourself, but you know from the time you start to go down that rabbit hole, you're going to start feeling feelings that you don't want to feel.
I think it's really important to do things that will feed your good mental well-being. And if you're going on social media, seeing other couples, and you believe that will be a trigger for you, because that's another critical thing about mental illness, you have to be mindful of your triggers. So if you know that that will be a trigger for you, yes, absolutely avoid it. But sometimes as well, going on and seeing others who are in a similar circumstance to you and understanding what they are doing to celebrate this, they can also inspire you and give you options as well to add value to your day. So there are benefits.
It sounds like finding the right balance for you is what's key.
Absolutely, and balance is my word for 2024. It is critical, balance in all things. And, you know, because as I say, there's always good and bad. And, you know, with everything, we need to recognize and understand that. And I think it's really important for us to ensure that we know what our triggers will be, know what will happen in those instances, and create support strategies to help us manage them, because that is what it's all about. Mental health and well-being is about management.
Couldn't be nothing else to say after that. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Adanna.
Well, thank you for having me.
Not
It's
a
been
problem.
a wonderful
Thank you for sharing these tips. I think that it'll come in very, very handy to a lot of people who are tuned in this morning.
Yes.
And I really, really appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you for having me. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and happy Valentine's.
Happy Valentine's to you as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break and come back with more on the Now Morning Show. When we come back, we talk and talk tent, so stick around.